Kia ora koutou and welcome to another episode of Full Credit. I am, of course, Alice Soper, and I actually got to hang out with Les Elder last week. How special was that, Les? In the same place.
Yes, we did actually. We got a lot of times. All day Thursday, we're at the Accelerating Women in Rugby conference that was run by New Zealand Rugby. Alice actually moderated a panel with Joe Card and Christina Sue. I always go to call her by her nickname, but Christina Sue. That was my favourite panel of the 2 days. And then I was a speaker on a panel in regards to coaching with the GOAT, Wayne Smith, and with Whitney Henson. So, yeah, a little bit surprised that I was on a coaching panel considering the amount of great coaches in the room. But hey, yeah, it was a good 2 days and we got to spend a lot of time together.
We did. You can never underestimate what you know at the grassroots, though, because I think about a quote I read in the book of Emma Espiner. It's no longer Espiner, Arahamai Emma. I can't remember what your actual name is now. But she was talking about how you may have lived experience at one time, but you haven't had it right now. And so sometimes we can put weight on lived experience, but things shift, right? So I would say, don't discount, Les, how much important lived experience you had to share from being a club coach, a rural club coach, in 2025. Because I would say that would be quite a different scene when Wayne Smith was doing it.
Yeah, 100%. And like to be fair, like I got over that quite quickly. It was a thought I had in my head, like, why am I being asked to jump on this panel with these two amazing coaches who have won World Cups, you know? And here I am in Little Taumaranui trying to win a King Country Club championship. But I did get over that quite quickly. And you helped me with that, obviously, by reminding me that, yeah, who out of us three is coaching rural rugby in 2025? I think too there were some elements of I'm a transitioning player, so recently retired, transitioning into coaching. I am living rural and I'm wanting to develop as a coach, but there is no women's team here. I'm about to have a baby in 2 weeks. I had no capacity to be the sole driver behind starting a women's rugby team here. So for me, I had to go into the men's game. And so I did really want to, I thought we might have delved into some of the real deep issues around coaching and women's coaching. How do we elevate women's coaching? How do we accelerate women in coaching? Like the conference was called, Accelerating Women in Rugby. And I thought we missed an opportunity to really delve into some of the deep issues facing female coaches in New Zealand. So, I mean, always inspired to be in a room with amazing women at conferences like that. But I do feel like there was a missed opportunity to delve into some real issues facing women in the game and bringing all those smart minds together to table some solutions. But yeah.
I would say I feel it was a validation for me in how I have structured my life, and that I was like, my rugby world is women's rugby. My people I talk to and connect with are people that are all the way bought into this game. So I feel like I'm actually pretty well connected into like a lot of this conversation right now. And it's interesting to me the way in which like there obviously still is a need for so many people to build that type of community and get access into like the other women who are working in the sport. But I have to say for me, I felt like, this is a validation that I've nailed this over the last couple of years. Like I can think when I have questions about certain areas, I can think of a list of women in each of those areas that I could hit up, that I would be able to draw that example from. And so, I can say for myself as a facilitator on one of those panels, I was in a way lucky that one of the three that I was due to have on my panel was unwell, which was Winia Everett, because honestly, if I'd had the three of them, that would have been way too hard in that 40 minutes to try and pull the type of depth that you can get out of them. It's always that balance of, this is the problem. We need to have these type of conferences more often, I think, because I think how many speakers they try to fit into that day, I think that just says we need to have more conferences to give these people more time, to give us more detail. But hey, good to have a first one there, and really just good to hang out with you, Les. We always enjoyed that, and also good to have an excuse to be in person at the Black Ferns USA game, because I wasn't going to go up for a conference and not stay for the footy. And I have to say, look, there was the Black Ferns. They have started a program which is their new media program, and I'm going to give props to them for this, because I have to say the way I was supported on both the Friday at the Captain's Rung and then on the game day on Saturday, I have never been so well looked after at a women's rugby match in terms of coverage. You know, like Sav was doing awesome stuff, checking in where I was, did I need any other support, Ella as well, making sure that I knew exactly where I needed to be and where else. Actually, the whole team like really were checking in on me, giving me water. I was like, are you guys all good? Like, I have what is going on?
I want to jump in on that too, because my role was a little different on game day on Saturday. So I do a bit of freelance work commentary with Sky Sports. So that's where I was working on Saturday. I was a panel guest for the game. And those two women in particular as well came and helped me, and they didn't need to, you know, but I got stuck at the gate trying to get in for about a good 30 minutes. I was late to makeup, and Ella was doing everything she could to try and get me through the gate. I got there in the end, and then I actually got to meet Sav later on throughout the night as well. And yeah, I do want to give credit to those ladies, because I think they're doing a great job. I mean, Rach, you always kill the content for the Black Ferns. You're amazing at what you do, and it's so engaging, the content you put out there. But the other two ladies that are bolstering that media team as well are doing great work. So thank you to the
and those of you that were following us on Instagram, obviously that's where we could get access to those interviews, how we could have the conversation with Portia after the game. Like, I've technically been kind of backdooring the new media thing for a while, because I get accredited through my writing, and then I bring my phone, because I'm not going to turn up there and not record what I'm talking about, right? So I've been kind of backdooring it for a while, but that there is now a understanding and a held space for those of us that are telling stories on non-traditional platforms. And, you know, again, Ella was a massive help to you and I, Les, throughout OPICI. When we were having trouble getting access to stats, she created something bespoke for us to be able to give you those numbers. And so I think it's, you know, the big takeaway from me during that Accelerate conference, Les, the best thing I heard said was by our, my mate Shorty Baker, on the first day, when she was saying, we don't necessarily need more money or resource, we need more yes, to be able to do what we know we can do. And I just felt like that was a great example of that in action, in terms of I got so much more yes than I have normally got, in terms of being able to, hey, can I do this? Yes, you can, go for it. Yes, you can we can give you access to this. Yes, we can send you press conference stuff. So it makes the life so much easier to be able to bring you the good stuff. But the game itself, I felt, well, firstly, I also want to say, how good were those anthems, Les? I know that's not supposed to be the rugby, but like, I don't know if I've ever heard an anthem sung more beautifully than those two were sung on Saturday.
Well, so I was sitting at the gate trying to get in for a good half an hour, and they were outside just singing in the car park, like waiting as well. They were waiting for their accreditation, and that group was singing, and they were beautiful. So that the anthems, I thought the vibe was amazing. Hey, you've got to give it up to the ground DJ, because usually we hear songs like "I would walk 500 miles." I mean,
that's for my people.
We need better music than that.
That's for my people, my aunties and uncles.
Whereas we actually had music. We had like music that made you want to get up and dance. And it actually reminded me of the 2022 World Cup. So I did my pre-match show, halftime show, and post-match show with Sky TV. And during the game, I went and sat in the green on the banks with my two kids and my husband. And the diversity in the crowd on the bank it reminded me of 2022. And I don't know if that was the Alona Ma effect, if she brought in all these new people, but the vibe was amazing. They had chalk available for all the kids to just tag up on the concrete. You know, it was cool. I thought it was a real good vibe.
I was just looking it up quickly on my phone, because I wanted to make sure that we knew who they were. So this 35-strong choir was students from Auckland Girls Grammar, from De La Salle, I don't know how I pronounce Thank
De
you.
La Salle. De La
Mangere
Salle.
College, Southern Cross, St Mary's and St Paul's College. And they were under the vocal direction of Nans Tupai from At Ease, I believe. So, it was just
Wow.
gorgeous. And I just, like, honestly, I had goosebumps with all of the harmonies and everything going on. We know that Americans' national anthem is not an easy one to sing, and they nailed it. So, look, that was a sidebar, but I totally agree with you, Les. The vibe in the stadium felt like we were tapping back into that World Cup energy, and I thought, good. Whatever happened this week, team, make note. Let's make sure we review how we got these people in there, and then kind of hold on to that, and that's special so we can replicate it elsewhere. And then, of course, the footy itself. Oh, wee! Like, this match was probably fizzing. I was put on the spot by lovely Stacey Waka and Georgia Miller at the captain's run the day before. Stacey said, Alice, what do you think the score's going to be? And I thought, okay, I've just seen you all kind of go through your run. I said 57-12. So I was predicting a bit of a beat up, but I was not expecting that score to get up into the 70s. Like, was that what you were expecting to see?
Yeah, I was expecting exactly the same. I thought they were going to annihilate them. Not like that. I was probably more thinking they're going to beat them by 30 points. I think that was my prediction on the show. Me and Honey Hit and me were having some off camera banter because she was like, nah, I reckon it's going to be 13 and under. I was like, no way. They're going to pump them. They're going to pump them. And the girls absolutely delivered, but it just made for the vibe, right? Like, it was entertaining rugby. You're seeing 15 tries being run in that game. 13 by New Zealand, 2 by the US, but that's just entertaining stuff.
Yeah. And it was so cool also to meet so many people in the crowd. First time watching, I had a lovely chat to a young one named Levi who'd come all the way from Taranaki with her mama to come and watch this match. And they were loving it. And they were like, this is what it always is. We'd brought our mate as well who'd never come to a game, had managed to miss the hype of the World Cup. And they were like, if this is women's rugby, sign me up. Give it to me all the time. Have to say, though, this game, what a madness. Like, I was thinking, poor old Caitlin Vahakolo, most games, if you scored 4 tries, everyone would be talking about you. But you get eclipsed when your other winger scores 7, for goodness sake.
I mean, how good, right? Like, and the fact that majority of the tries happened on the outside of the field meant that they were doing something right through the middle, right? Like, they were exposing defenders through the middle, which freed up space on the outsides to just give a pass. I mean, Porsche and KV had to do a little bit of work for some of those tries, but for majority, there was just so much space on the edges there. So great work to the ladies in the middle, who probably will get no recognition for it this week, because the backs were definitely on fire.
You have to say too, though, like, they had to be, because the game that was played the day before, we knew that this round was going to come down to points differential, and we did have the advantage of a 14 point up coming into this round. But then, Canada turned the heck up against Australia the night before, that Friday night match. I think, what was it? They scored at least 3 tries in the first 20 minutes, and I thought, uh-oh, this is going to be a big score, which is now going to put actually quite the bit of pressure back on us to make sure that we are converting those points. Australia, Canada, they said they wanted to work on transitions last week. You'd have to give them the big old tick for that one, wouldn't you have to?
Yeah, I thought they were really good. I thought they jumped another level. I mean, Black Ferns and Canada both did this week, and both teams stepped to the pressure of winning that, battling that point differential. Obviously, though, for Canada, the Black Ferns just took that away and overall won the Pacific Force Series, which is yes moment for us. 1 trophy in the cabinet, actually 2. We've already got the Laurie O'Reilly, so 2 trophies in the cabinet, and then the big one to come. But I thought Canada looked good. I loved like what you've been saying for the last how many weeks, right? Olivia Apps was going to make a difference, and she absolutely did. I thought she played outstanding. I mean, just rattling off some of their stats, like they had majority possession, 60%. They had a 75% line-out success rate, so their line-out still operating the highest, I think, in the competition. 100% scrum rate. They won 86% of their restarts, 83% tackle success. Now, I didn't actually jot down their ruck speed from last week against the Black Ferns. This week they were averaging around 4.05 seconds per ruck, which isn't too bad. But yeah, no, they were really good. I feel like TCA just gets better with time, and now having apps in there just adds that game driving ability and injection behind
It's
the ruck.
interesting to me too when you look at the list of try scorers, because they actually like us, we cashed in big. There was a couple of players that racked them up huge. For Canada, they scored a lot of points, but a lot of people scored them. And so that's also interesting in terms of that. That to me, does that not just typify kind of how Canada is at the moment, where it's like we all stand tall rather than one individual getting that spotlight? That is kind of how this team plays. They put that work across. I mean, the slower ruck speed of like 4 seconds, that also though isn't that kind of Canada style, in that if they are a team that sets up and plays. So whereas like for New Zealand, if we're playing a ruck speed of around 4 seconds, that's too slow, because our best rugby is kind of offload rugby at tempo, whereas Canada, their best rugby is setting up their pods and launching off that. So like being a little bit slower, I don't know if I'm necessarily like that's kind of in line with how they like to play the game. But I was just going to say, poor old Australia though. Apart from the loss, the other big loss was the announcement after the match that Joe Yap is only going to be sticking around to the World Cup and then will be moving back to England. I feel like that is going to be a real oof for women's rugby in Australia. I thought she was really starting to make some good grounds there, and I feel gutted. I feel gutted for the Aussies that she'll be moving on.
Yeah, I mean, I understand too, like the reason why they've announced it so early. I hope it wasn't, announced too early that it impacted Australia's performance on the weekend, because they did seem to just be not as good. I mean, obviously they're playing world number 2. It's a harder opposition than USA from the previous week. But yeah, it was almost like the progress they'd been making took 2 steps backwards. But yeah, big loss for Australia. And I guess it just continues to show some of the issues facing some of our female high performance coaches. So like she said, though, family comes first, and she's made the decision as what's best for her family. But I hope vision and strategy to continue to have a female coach in that setup stays front of mind for Australian Rugby Union.
Now, there obviously were lots of positives for the Black Ferns in this week, but the 2 points of contention for me are still around the kicking. Now, we will talk about place kicking in a second, but the first one for me is actually, I still don't know if we know what we're doing at kickoffs. Like, I think, you kind of, what are we doing? Are we trying to win the ball back, in which case we're going short? Or are we trying to kick it deep and then, get the attacking opportunity off that, like force them to clear it and then something happens? We're kicking a lot of ball just outside of the 22, which actually gives them quite a good place to kind of play out from there. Like, I don't know if I understand the kickoff strategy.
And yeah, well, I'll be honest, I haven't actually paid much attention to it. I wonder if they're kind of just, backing their kick chase to be able to apply defensive pressure and keep teams down there and force teams to run it out from there, or at least kick it out from there, hoping that they're not going to get the distance on their kicks. The thing is, though, teams like France and England, you're right, with all that space, they have the ability to run it out and run it out effectively. And they also have big booters to just exit well as well. So, yeah, I'm not too sure. That's a great question. Maybe we can ask the coach.
We'll leave that one as a question mark. But the other one, obviously, is place kicking. Because, look, it was a beautiful day in terms of the tries we were scoring, but we left 50% was the kicking rate of both Roa Heidemont and Hannah King. So that's 50% of our points are not converted. Like that, again, when we're talking about right now, okay, cool. If you're in this type of match, in this type of moment, okay, you got away with it. But when it comes to the crunch time, we know we only got into the final. Let's be honest, team. We only got into the final in the last World Cup because France missed one of their kicks. Like, we can't be doing this. Like, that starts to be really important, right, Les?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been saying this, I think, the whole sort of through Opaki, because we got to see some of our kickers kick there, and Kristen Cottrell was the best of any New Zealand kicker, right? And I think Renee Holmes might have been sitting in the 50s. So we knew that it wasn't good enough coming into Pacific 4, and it probably hasn't, I mean, it's slightly improved, but not to the level that we need it to be. So, yeah, you're 100% right. And that could be the thing that allows some girls to be brought into this team, right? And I'm saying like a Renee Holmes.
Yeah,
if her kicking.
I mean, and that was the feedback that we heard from Tony Christie this week too, because to be honest with you, it was this was a comment that he dropped during the captain's run that I thought was really interesting. Firstly, around the fact that he was talking about, you know, door being wide open, no squad being locked in for them yet, and the current strategy that they are employing to try and up everyone's kicking potential. So we're going to have a listen to what he had to say around that one there.
Yeah. As coaches, we don't know our World Cup squad yet. That's the honest thing, because of the competition so strong in this group. So some people get some opportunity this week, and we'll reassess after that.
Quick word on Braxton, obviously coming very young. Are you seeing her become more and more comfortable, or was she just comfortable when she came in?
Nah, it's a special talent. She came in and is quietly confident in her own way, but we're starting to hear her voice more and more. And she said something in the team meeting the other day, and she sounded like a 30-year-old veteran. And all the girls turned around and had a bit of a laugh, and that's what she's starting to develop into. So it's exciting, that talent.
Did she get a crack with the tee this weekend?
Not sure actually. It's probably more of Ricky Flutie, our kicking coach. He has a competition with them, and he's monitoring them each kick they do, and they've got a running tally, and the girls back home are also involved in that. So Renee's still a part of that, back outside of camp. So we're really lucky. We've got quality 15s in both Brax, Ren, who's in part of the group at the moment, but also Medi can do a job there. So it's good competition.
So interestingly, we haven't seen Renee in the camp, but she is still in this tally competition, Les.
Yes, I mean, how cool is that to have a tally competition being driven so that the girls at home are still connected in some competitive way? And they've got a glimpse, right? They've got a glimpse of, if I can nail this, that could be my in. That could be my door opening, and I'm in that team. And they know each other, right? So they know each other's what makes them tick, what rattles them when it comes to kicking. And not that they'd be trying to expose that in one another, but they would be trying to look at that and use it in their own advantage to better their own opportunities to get into the game. So, yeah, that's a big statement from Tony Christie, and it just shows that, you know, Renee Holmes definitely still has an opportunity and a chance to make this team if she can kick her way through. We talked off camera about Braxton Sorensen-McGee and some video footage that's been circling the media of her kicking a goal kick from the touchlines when she was at school playing league. So obviously she can kick, but I just wonder if they're not rushing her into that very high pressured role at this stage of her career. Who knows though? She's showing that she can handle the pressure. 3 games, she's absolutely shone. And you'll hear where she sits in our Form 15 if she does this week. But this is a girl that can handle pressure. So how they balance that out and prepare her for that for the World Cup will be interesting to see.
And listening to TC as well in that clip saying that she's sounding like a 30-year-old in team meetings. I mean, she is one that obviously has grown right into that space. But I think you're right. You know, she's a debutante. You want her to be able to come in and nail core role. So she's done that initially. But maybe it's something that we see in the background. Keep working away. She's obviously would be probably in this tally competition. And if it comes to it, if she's got another, you know, string to her bow, we'll let her let fly. So, you know, that's something to think about there. Now, in terms of the play-by-play, Les, I wanted to do something different this week because we knew that this was a big moment in terms of the record that was set by Portia Woodman-Wickliffe, but also with that, the record that was broken. And that was the record that was held by Vanessa Coots for so many years, for goodness sake, like nearly, over 20? She had been the top try scorer for the Black Ferns, and now that is the mantle that Portia Woodman-Wickliffe now carries. But I just need to tell you, and I need to take you back, and you need to understand how bloody good Vanessa Coots was. She was Black Fern number 63. She had scored 43 tries. That was her record that Portia broke. But she scored that record in 16 tests. Just 16. Which meant her average was 2.7 tries per match. Now, this included her scoring 4 tries on debut and also 4 tries in the World Cup final of 1998. Now, look, I've actually seen people say she scored 5 tries in that one, but I'm going with what Ellie Donnelly wrote in this book, Scrum Queens, because I trust Ellie with my life. But I also wanted to read you what she had to say about Vanessa Coates from that 1998 World Cup, which is Vanessa Coates was nicknamed the Black Dot by her teammates because that's all anyone would see with the ball when she would run off with it. And I think, she was just gas, hitting on the corners. No one would see her, away she would go. Just incredible stuff. And, the most tries still by any Black Fern scored in one game is still Vanessa's record. So while it was impressive that Portia scored 7 this weekend and Portia's overall record is 8, the record is still held by Vanessa Coates. And that is 9 tries that she scored against France, not an easy team, against France back in 1996. And I understand, Liz, you have the pleasure of having known Vanessa.
Yes, Vinny, yep. So when I was fresh out of high school, I moved to Hamilton, 17 years old, and I started playing club rugby for Eastern Suburbs, which was in the Flagstaff area of Hamilton. And Vanessa Coates was in my club rugby team. So she was actually she had retired internationally, so was no longer playing international test matches. And she was in her last couple of years of playing. Now, that year we played Waikato Women's together. So Waikato FPC is the equivalent now. I think back then it was called NPC and then WPC, or WNPC. And so she was on her way, she was exiting the game, but she was unreal, like absolutely unreal. Still fast, still powerful, the kindest person, she was intimidating because she was so big and physical and strong. And I was just this little pink little girl, but she was so kind, so loving, so welcoming. And she was that player that you were always like, is Vinny playing today? Because we'll win. Yeah. We'll win if Vinny's playing. We actually made it all the way to the final, but we didn't win. We actually lost to Exia Edwards' team, or Exia Shelford, who was another legendary Black Fern from the Bay of Plenty out of Opotiki. So, yeah, I got to play alongside Vanessa Coates for a couple of years when I first hit women's rugby. And she was amazing, absolutely outstanding.
And from what I understand, still a women's club coach today, working with Regina Sheck. From what I understand, they've been a dynamic duo coaching women's rugby in Hamilton for a while now. So, what an absolute goat. But like I said, for the play-by-play, we wanted to do something different, which is we've actually got some footage of Vanessa Coates and those other legends in actions from back in 1997. Now, this was a game that was played against Australia, you might guess from the look of these jerseys, against Australia down in Dunedin in 1997. And the lovely Jerry Paul, who was a Black Fern, of course, herself, she's the one that shared this footage with me. But I'm going to be honest with you, Liz, the commentary on it was terrible. I sent it to you. It sounded like there was just like, I don't know, they'd left a mic in a room and some blokes were just having a yarn. They weren't talking at all about what was happening in the game. And so that, let's just be honest, pissed me off. So I thought, no, if we're going to give respect to these players, I'm going to try and give them the commentary that they deserve. So I've actually re-commentated the clips and dropped from what I can best guess. And again, my apologies, team, if I have attributed any of you lovely people incorrectly. This is based off the team list that is on the Black Ferns stats page for that day. So I'm sorry, if you switch jerseys in the changing room and I end up calling someone else, that's what's going on there. But I thought I would play this first try, which is, Vanessa doesn't score this one, someone else does, but we'll just have a look at this one.
Ball is won just outside the 22 and it's brought down for Cheryl Waka, who finds Ricky Heimer on the charge. Sends it back towards her support play and Rochelle Martin is quick to seal over top. Waka to Anna Richards now on the move. Slips an inside ball to Lewissa Wall. She bounces off one and then finds the ground. It's 1997, folks, so the forwards come tumbling in and Farah Palmer gives it a good old ruck for Waka, who finds Richard to Lenadine Simpson, who pops up a lazy ball to Vanessa Coots on the charge. Slips through one and only that oversized jersey catches her short. Palmer arrives and quickly distributes Anna Richards, who finds the corner. A beautiful try for New Zealand.
I mean, for goodness sake, Liz, the inside lines that were being run on that, the cats on the inside, the lazy hang of that pass, how good was that?
Oh, I mean, that clip, and I wish we could just bring up so many more of these clips, right? Because these women were phenomenal, and at a time where they played like one game a year. You know, they didn't have nowhere near the resourcing, and they just showed us in that clip the DNA that everyone keeps talking about, right? Like, every week we hear a comment about Black Ferns DNA. There it is. There's the history of it. There's where it stemmed from, these legends. So it's only right that in handing over this record to Portia Woodman-Wickliffe, who is, you know, arguably the GOAT in women's rugby, that we acknowledge some of the GOATs of that time, and that being Vanessa
So
Coots.
it was obviously Anna Richard who dotted down for that one. But also, Liz, can we just have a sidebar for what the heck were rucks back in 1997? That looks so stressful. Like the rucking that Farah Palmer's chucking in there, the dame herself. But my goodness, I was like, holy heck, that was really just a free-for-all.
Well, surely you played in the days of legal rucking, right? When you were allowed to ruck. Like, I played in the days of the legal rucking, and I loved it.
I mean, I surely must have, but I think at that time I was still an outside back, so I tried to get up and get off the ground as soon as possible, mate. Like I wasn't in there.
I mean, the amount of times that I was in like push and shoves, and I think one time actually for Eastern Suburbs, playing alongside Vanessa Coots, I actually got into a punch up with another player right in front of my family who was standing on the sideline watching. And yeah, I think that was the only fight I've ever had on a rugby field, and it was initiated from rucking. Right. So you can imagine the amount of fights that used to happen then.
Liz, I can tell you that, like I say, at that time I was a skinny little white girl, and I was playing, and my other mate who was also they would call us street kids, that we would come and play because we were the local high school girls that would come and play in the Johnsonville women's team, and my other mate was with me was Kitty May, and she was one time had been like too cheeky in one of our games against Porneke that one of the players wanted to fight her, and so at halftime she had to run away and hide in the changing rooms because they were looking for her to fight. So I'm like, again, kids these days have no idea just how kind of like Wild West sometimes the rugby would be. Like I had the great compliment of an absolute legend of Wellington women's rugby, Dawn Patalisior. She's played over 300 games for North. She once told me that at that time their strategy was just smash Alice. They just would put Amy Sartorius on me to smash me into the sideline. So I don't think I got rucked. I think I just got smashed and said, Les. So there you go.
We actually had, just to add to that, so this is probably more for the old girls that might be listening in on this, but we actually had Lenadine Simpson, who was a Black Fern as well, as our coach. Scariest coach I've ever had. Oh my gosh, she was scary. So she was all for the fights and rucks and just get in there and go hard. But yeah, bring back the old days. And it was her with that
lazy pop that put Vanessa into space. But the second try, I am going to show it to you as well. We've got a second one, and this is Vanessa scoring it. So I'm going to give this to you. Let's take a look at this one.
The penalty is taken quickly by Cheryl Waka. Lewissa Wall takes it to the line, hits, spins, offloads. Across to Anna Richards, who passes at the line. Draw and pass, and Vanessa Coots, she's in space. Vanessa Coots, no one will catch her. Vanessa Coots scores for New Zealand.
Well, that kind of looks like a try that would have been scored on Saturday. You know, again, you've already talked about the DNA there, Les. The offloads, the running rugby, the shoulder lines that they're all doing, it's around the corner, full hiss, like, just, yeah, it's a clip that looks like it could have come from the weekend.
And you can just see why they were so dominant in their era, right, in their time, right? Like, they really just laid the foundation for what we all get to enjoy now. So, yeah, I love that we're paying tribute to the legends of our game.
And look, if you want to watch the highlights from this week, they're all online and probably all over your social media because everyone is talking about it. So we thought it was better to give you something you might not have seen and go back into the vaults for that one. So thank you very much to our mate Jerry Paul for sending us through those clips so that we could share them with you. Okay, that's the play-by-play. Shall we have a look at this Inform 15, Liz?
Let's do it. We've gone hard and broken down all the stats for the top performers of the week. And first up, we've actually got 3, haven't we, that we've compared?
Sure have. So you've had with the loose heads, it was Kate Henwood, Hope Rogers and McKinley Hunt that you were comparing across the board there. What did you make of it, Liz?
Yeah, well, I actually liked the touches that I seen from Kate Henwood, her first game of Pac 4, and she needed to play well. And she made a really nice line break where she had to fight through some contact. But McKinley Hunt in the Canadian game was outstanding as well. And then Hope Rogers, as Hope Rogers does, she is just their most consistent performer, right? Like I feel for her that she doesn't have a lot more behind her, like supporting that power play that she gives. She was the one that actually put us under so much pressure at the start of the game in those opening phases where USA were first to score, not through her. She came in and scored second after Tafuna, but I thought she played really well. So just to compare some of their stats. So carries, Kate made 4 carries, 10 for Hope, and McKinley made 8. Kate was the only one to beat a defender, the one defender. All around the same for metres gained. Kate made 15 metres, Hope 17, and McKinley 19. Kate, again, we talked about the line break that she made, but it was Hope and McKinley that both got a try apiece. Hope was the busiest, which you understandably, considering they were the team on defence this week with 13 tackles compared to 7 for Kate and 6 for McKinley Hunt. And then it was probably the penalties conceded. But I mean, when you're on defence that much throughout the game, you're going to cough up a couple of penalties. And yes, on Saturday, Hope coughed up 3 penalties. She did one back, one turnover. But McKinley also handed over 2 penalties and Kate won. So, I mean, I loved that Kate took her opportunities this game. She only played half a game, so I did sort of look at the other 2, and I probably landed on Hope Rogers. But what do you reckon?
I think you probably have to, again, in terms of like what was it like when your stats are kind of there and thereabouts as they are this week. This is when it comes back into the subjective, right? We go objective and look at the stats, and then when they're close enough, you have to then take it back and take that zoom back into when you were watching the match. Who was it that was causing you anxiety or was standing out to you in terms of their performance? And I have to say that was Hope Rogers. I think that she has been phenomenal. I love as well when you listen to her talk about it. She states she wants to be the world's best loosehead, and I wish that more players from USA would hold themselves to that type of standards. I think they have it in them. And I think about, the late, great Kathy Flores, and that's exactly what she'd want to be hearing out of more American players. So, yeah, I think for me, it's going to be Hope. But I think you're right. A very strong performance from Kate Henwood, which is good from her. And, of course, is it any wonder that Canadian forwards are good? I don't think so. But, yeah, got to be Hope.
I mean, majority of our Form 15 comparisons were between the Black Ferns and Canada. So the next 2 up for discussion and comparison was Georgia Ponsonby and Gillian Bogg. Have I said that right?
Yeah.
Bogg. So let's rattle off some stats. Georgia made 6 carries, made 16 metres off those carries and 1 line break, compared to Gillian's 9 carries, 1 defender beaten, 25 metres gained, and also 1 line break. So Gillian very effective on attack. 10 tackles for Gillian compared to Ponsonby's 6, and operated at 88% line-out win compared to the Black Ferns 67%. So the line-out's still an issue for the Black Ferns, and that's something they need to tidy up real fast. We've been saying that all Pac 4. But again, bread and butter stuff, plus dominated a majority of those stats, I'd say Gillian. Although, again, like Kate Henwood, I was impressed or happy with the performance by Georgia Ponsonby this week.
Yeah, ultimately, I said it in week 1. You need to give me those line-out percentages if you want to be in the team of the week. And so it has to be Gillian. What about number 3? We had the introduction to the international game of Vaisinia Mahutariki Whakalilo. How good was that? But where did we end up landing in terms of who the number 3 was?
Yes, I mean, so happy to see Vay get her debut for the Black Ferns. But when we're looking at the 2, Dalika Menon, she is Menon the Menace. Like, she is outstanding. 12 carries, 5 defenders beaten.
Just what?
That's epic for a front rower. 5 defenders beaten, 1 line break. She's made 47 metres. She has 6 tackles because they were on attack majority of that game. 1 penalty conceded, but she also won a turnover and a couple of other things. Chucked in 2 offloads there and a try assist. Like, that's a busy prop. Stand out for me, no doubt.
She's exciting to watch, and I love it when one of the bigger players in the field backs themselves. It's always exciting to see them have a go. And yeah, she was phenomenal. It had to be. Now to the locks. We had another matchup. We had obviously we could have picked a Bremner because we had them substitute for each other this week.
Yeah, how cool was that to see Chelsea back on the international stage and to have the Bremner name there for the full 80 minutes? I think that actually got mentioned in commentary, which I thought was quite sharp. But yeah, I mean, we compared Alana Bremner and Courtney O'Donnell from Canada. Courtney again, these 2 I think we compared last week as well. Alana, 5 tackles to Courtney's 10, 5 carries for Alana to Courtney's 9. Alana did beat 2 defenders, but only made 5 metres. And I mean, the game sort of unravelled where the middle of the field didn't have to do a lot in the attack. It happened a lot on the outsides. But Courtney did make 15 metres off her 9 carries. She did give away 2 penalties, but she won a turnover. And Alana turned over 1 ball, but won a turnover as well. Ultimately, though, like we've said already, the 8 for Canada, like, they're just getting better and better each week. And there's particular players, Menon, O'Donnell and Royer, for me, are the 3 that are really like stamping their mark week on, week out. So for me, I went with Courtney.
And I think you're right. And I think probably the only stat that we're not listing off there that might kind of tell you why that metres gained was only 5 for Alana is if we looked at the number of passes. Because I think that there was a couple of times, right, where she did make a break, she started something, and then she passed it out. Because she knows when you've got Portia scoring 7 tries in one game, why would you try and run it up the middle when you can give it to some gas outside? So I think that's also, it's the stylistic thing too that we kind of see in a couple of these head-to-heads when we're comparing those stats is stylistically, we're not going to expect our locks to run the ball as much as Canada will. So yeah, there's a bit of a screwing of the scrum in their favour, but then when they put on performances like that, you can't help but sit up and take notice. In the other lock, though, we had what is my partner's favourite name in Canada. Mine personally is Fabiola Forteza, but she loves Tyson Bookie Boom because it's so good.
Well, I feel like Canada have the best names. Like, they have the best names. Booga Boom, that's what we used to call her at the World Cup, well, referred to at the World Cup, and obviously all the references to Boom when she got the ball. There's Fancy Bermudez. Like, there are some really cool names in that Canadian team. But yes, we have compared Maya and Tyson and tackles. So 12 tackles to Maya Roos compared to 15 for, is it Bookaboo?
That's, you know what, we've done the thing again, haven't we? Let's go back to what you were saying during the World Cup, because I'm sure someone would have corrected you, given that you were calling the World Cup.
Yeah. Maya made 3 carries. Didn't get, now is that wrong? 1 metre off those 3 carries. No defenders beaten compared to Tyson's 7 carries, 8 metres. Tyson had 1 penalty conceded, but also 2 turnovers. Maya lost possession twice, but she was solid in their line out, taking 4. To be honest, I didn't notice either player significantly in each game. And I think it just goes to say some of the unseen work that they just sort of do without a lot of, it's not big stuff that screams out to anybody. I landed on Buka Boom probably bolstered by some of these statistics. I still feel like we're not seeing what we know we would usually see of Maya Roos. But international test match, test footy, often it's not the locks that are going to be screaming out at you on the TV screen, right? And so sometimes they are just needed to do all the real dirty work, carry clean, or it might just be cleaning rucks. So, yeah, I landed on Tyson Buka.
I think that's correct, but I also just think, you're right. We love obviously seeing expansive runners and all of that. That's the stuff that makes the highlight reel. But reality is, you cannot pick or you cannot expect your whole team to be a team of runners, because if everyone's trying to line up for a carry, no one's securing a ruck. And I can tell you, having played rugby out of my beautiful province, I think we have a tendency sometimes of picking too many ball carriers and not enough ball securers. And you can't do anything with a ball, you can't do anything on a carry unless you're doing your first job first. And so I think it's also about role team expects you to play. And so while we are expected to see Maya, when she's playing with the Blues, she's expected to play a different role in that team, just based on their team profile and how they go. But she's expected to be a workhorse in this one, and that's what she's doing. So, it's not a glamour position, but this is also why I like doing the Inform 15, because otherwise if you do this stuff most of the time, all you hear about is wingers. And I love you guys, but sometimes you, as Portia said in her post-match, sometimes you do just catch and put it down. We have to give love everywhere. Okay, number 6 though. We had Liana Michieli too, and Royer. Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with her. Can I just say we picked her? Can I just say that?
Yeah. We landed on Ria, right? That's 2 games now. She's played outstanding. She is definitely the blindside flanker that I'm now oh, I want to watch this woman every time. And saying that, I do want to credit Liana, because I still thought Liana had a good game for what we needed her to do in her first start for the Pac 4. So, still credit to Liana, but Letitia Royer, she takes our 6 for this week.
I mean, the turnovers, the carries, the line breaks, the defenders beaten. She's just everywhere you need to be. But the number 7, there was never a question, because as I asked her in the post-match, was there ever any chance that Georgia Miller was going, I said, is there any ever chance that you were going to play that game and not try and throw a diving offload? And she said no. That she likes to play with the confidence.
I mean, we heard it in Tony Christie's press conference with you, right, on the Friday at the captain's run. He said she doesn't lack in confidence. So that's a kid that is just full belief in herself, and good on her. She could probably give some inspiration, or she could probably have some TED Talks or some kind of how to share that confidence with others, because we know that imposter syndrome is real amongst a lot of our women. But also, he also said it's just like having another back on the field. And I was watching her off the ball. Me and my husband were really paying attention to her detail, and she's constantly positioning herself in space. So she knows. There was a try, I think the one where she gave the ball out, she gave the flatline ball out to Portia, I think it was, or maybe Braxton. Now, no, it was to Portia, because we noticed when she gave the pass, Braxton kind of held back as if Portia was going to get caught and Braxton might have to ruck clean. Whereas Georgia was like, I'm giving this to one of the best rugby players in the world. I'm now going to sprint after her, because if she gets caught, I'm on her inside for the offload. So that game awareness, that's special. She was really, really good. And, just personally, I feel for Kennedy Simon or Kennedy Tukuafu, because what does that mean for her? But Georgia was so good. She had 3 try assists. She made 13 tackles. 2 of those were dominant. 8 carries, 2 defenders beaten, 2 line breaks, 69 metres gained. She did give away 1 penalty, which was early in the game. So it's as a 7, you want to test your ref early. And she got pinged, and then she didn't cough up any more after that. But 3 offloads, 3 try assists, Like, she was outstanding in our standout 7.
Honestly, the 3 offloads too, like, there needs to be a different category for the ones there where you're falling over on the ground where you're giving them, because that was just outrageous stuff. That first try was just outrageous. It was like, hello, welcome, like, that's you we've been looking for. But like, I also, the pressure that has been coming too. I have been battling in the comment section and people atting me saying she should be playing midfield. And me reminding people that in 2021, she played in the 7 for Canterbury against Waikato when they just lost to Waikato in the FPC final. So this was her natural position. She came in and she showed people why. And I will give credit, the person that went to me, was having one of the cracks at me online, then did reply after the game and was like, okay, I am now convinced.
Yeah, 100%. Because you got to think too is how they want to play their game, right? They want to play that expansive wide rugby where there's a lot happening around the 10-12, and the 7 hangs around the 10-12, like they are there for those offloads off the 10-12. And in this case, she's given the offloads, but with more game time, she's going to read her 10-12, her centre, her wingers. She's going to read them and she'll know where to be to get that offload off
Now,
them.
number 8, we had my favourite name, Fabiola Forteza for the Canadians. We were looking at her numbers, and then you look at her numbers, and then you just look at our bestie, Kaipua Olsen-Baker, and for goodness sake, another huge game for her.
I mean,
like, what was it, 27 carries and 102 metres. 9 defenders beaten. Just unreal stuff.
Like, she was possessed. She was a woman possessed. Like, unfortunately, we're not going to rattle off Fabiola's stats because Kaipua's dominate hands down. 15 tackles, 27 carries, 9 defenders beaten, 102 metres. She got an intercept in there too, which I think was one of the 3 turnovers that she won. So 1 intercept and 2 ruck steals. She made 3 offloads, 1 penalty conceded. But I mean, Kaipua had an outstanding game, and that trio to me, and this is why I do want to credit Liana, is I feel like Liana does the unseen to allow these 2 to do a lot of the seen, but Kaipua is busy and she is smart. She's outstanding.
And I asked to see a pick off the back, and she gave me one at a scrum, and so I was happy because I've been waiting for one of those all season. So we got a little one. I think she could carry it a little further. But anyway, halfbacks. We had Reese Pody Lane, of course, make her entry into the pivot, and we had her up against her other 7 sister, Olivia Apps, who got the start for the first time for Canada. And there. Now, these stats, we had 65 passes for Reese to 53 for Olivia Apps. We had no try assists for either of them, but we had 6 tackles for Reese, 2 for Apps. We had 3 carries for Reese and 6 for Apps. We had 1 defender beaten each, 1 line break for Apps. Meters game, Apps pipped her with 39-26. Apps also won a turnover and had an offload. I think this is an interesting one, right? I'm just going to call it and say Olivia Apps was the 9 of the week, but Reese Pody Lane is the 9 for the Black Ferns.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, you're going with Apps for the form 9. I probably would have went Reese, but probably only because I feel like she had an instrumental role in the back attack.
I think the same for Apps,
the ability to clear the ruck. The ability to clear those rucks. And like, here's a stat that I rattled off to you, right, was last week against Canada, and bearing in mind Canada are number 2, they were a harder team to play. But last week against Canada, we averaged ruck speed, I think, of 4.59 seconds. So last week in the podcast, we actually counted that down, 1 Mississippi, etc. This week, it was 3.96. 70% of our rucks this week were under 3 seconds compared to 54% last week. Like, you're right. I agree. I feel like she is our 9. And shit, what a time to bring her in, right? Like, that was her debut, and she was outstanding. I'm not going to dispute you on Apps because I thought I already said she was great, but oh man, be ready to defend yourself in the comment section because I'm blaming you.
Here's my thing. I think that like Olivia Apps as well, like yes, Reese came in, expectations all-time high, and she delivered it, right? Like, and don't get me wrong, I just think she's going to only get better from here. Whereas, like, Livia Apps has been holding this high standard now for such a long time, has been nailing it for Canada now for a while in both 7s and 15s. I think a big piece of why Canada were able to deliver that score against Australia, why Canada were able to put all that scoreboard pressure onto New Zealand in our match against USA, why we had to score all the points, was how Liv was steering that game for the Canadians. And so I just think I'm seeing Reece and I'm like, hell yeah, this is it. Like, I can't wait to see her continue to give us that pace off the base, like I said last week, which unlocks it for how we like to play our style. But I do think that sometimes the ball, we went real fast, and I don't know if everyone was ready for how quick we were going, because we did see the ball go to ground a couple of times behind everyone. But I like that she's demanding us to get moving, like I'm into it. I just think, yeah, Liv levels up Canada, who are already such a good team. I mean, they both do. But nah, I'm sticking by Apps. I'm sticking by her.
I just want to say ditto, but replacing Apps for Reece. Nah, that all good. Both of them were great. Both of them were great. I can't wait for. That's why we need to play Canada again.
Well, the way the draw works, chances are we will in the semi-final. Anyway, number 10. Oh my God, this is taking us so long to get through this this list. So let's kind of go a bit faster now. So we had. I know you told me to look at Ruahei Demant and Claire Gallagher, but I actually chucked Hannah King in there too. Because I'm going to say, when she came out, I enjoyed what she added into the game. So I wanted to also compare her stats alongside the other two. So in terms of passes, Lou had the most with 21, Hannah King 15, Claire Gallagher 16. Try assists, Hannah King and Claire Gallagher both had 1 each. Tackles, Ruahei made the most 5, Hannah King 2, Claire Gallagher 1. Carries, Hannah King and Claire Gallagher both with 4, Ruahei with 5. Ruahei and Claire both beat one defender, and Ruahei was far and away in terms of those metres gained 37 to Hannah King's 16 and Claire's 12. Kicking we already talked about, it was 50-50 for both Hannah King and Ruahei Demant. For the Canadians, it's Julia Shell who does their kicking, so we can't do that comparison there with Gallagher. I want to say, look, ultimately it was Ruahei Demant, I think, who we have to pick as our 10. But I really liked what Hannah King did and came on. I thought what I liked about her was, given how hot that and exciting that game is, I think it would have been really easy to come on and try and play your hand a bit too hard. But what I liked was she came on and she just kept pushing it out. You don't see her necessarily very high up on that carry list. She was more than happy to not, change things up unnecessarily and can continue to just feed that fire that was firing out wide. And, I enjoyed that. So give it to Ruahei, but wanted to make sure that we gave Hannah King that acknowledgement too.
Yeah, I think too she's just cementing that run on 10 role.
Yeah.
Which I think we anticipated, right, that Ruahei would be the 10 for the World Cup, but we needed someone else just in case something happened to Lou, and Hannah is nailing that at the moment. So, yeah, I agree.
She is. Now, number 11, Caitlin Vahakolo, we picked her there. And I was very lucky to be sitting in front of friend of the forest, KV's mum. If you know her from TikTok, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about there. And her mum in particular was saying, we are so pleased, because it's been a bit of a drought for her, for a while, that they're so pleased to see, she was making it rain on Saturday. And look, there's a bunch of stats I could give you. And, metres gained, I think, though, for me, out of all of hers, yes, she scored the try. Yes, she, tackled and carried, etc. The big one for me is she was top of the stats in terms of metres gained. That's when you know that KV is on, because her post-contact metres in particular are always really impressive. But she hadn't been hitting that for a while. And if I tell you, the last game that she played during the Pacific Force Series, her metres gained in that match were 8 metres. So for her to turn that around and have that absolutely hissing and put on, 152, that's massive for her, and that's KV back on track. So I'm really stoked for her to see that number there for her. Number 12, who did you pick?
Well, I actually landed on Teresa, but I was impressed with Tessier as well. like I said earlier. But I'll leave that to you to rattle off
Yep.
them stats and you
Yep,
decide.
I agree with you, and I think ultimately it probably comes down to the metres gained because everything else is kind of close, and it was just that Teresa put 30 to Tessier's 6, and got the turnover as well. So welcome back, Teresa Setafano. Lovely to have you here. And alongside her, we looked at the numbers between Stacey Waka and Florence Simons, which I have checked, and it is Simons. And again, you know, some pretty good numbers there, but you had to give it to Stacey, and I think the thing that tipped it for her was 4 try assists. And that's just her hissing, right?
Yeah, and again, like first game back, she didn't do the usual like line break, beat defenders. And in saying that, she was up against Alona Mars, so they had good battles as well. But she did everything to allow her outsides to score 11 tries.
4 is ridiculous. Number 14 is Portia Woodman-Wickliffe because she scored 7 tries. She carried 13 times and beat 9 defenders and had 4 line breaks. That's all I'm going to say. Congratulations, Portia Woodman-Wickliffe. Fullback, though. We looked at Braxton Sorensen-McGee and Julia Schell, and honestly, again, pretty close. Julia got the try and Brax didn't, which is, you know, unusual for her. We now expect... How ridiculous is that? Like this young girl, I'm like, I now expect you to score, Brax. How ridiculous. 1 try assist each, though. Julia had to make more tackles, 5 to Brax's 1. Brax had more carries, 9 carries to Julia's 7. Brax beat 6 defenders, 2 line breaks to Julia's 2 defenders beat it in 3 line breaks. Brax racked up 116 metres gained, gave away a penalty. The other thing to note with Julia is her kicking percentage was 62.5, so she landed 5 and she missed 2 conversions and a penalty. After all of those numbers, I'm going to give it to the whānau that was sitting in front of me at that match, which is Sorensen-McGee. Congratulations. 3 out of 3 for her?
I was just going to say, does that make her 3 out of 3? Is she our best performing? And Kaipo, maybe?
So.
And Lou, actually. Yeah. So maybe those 3 have made the Form 15 over the whole Pack 4. So Kaipo and Braxton could be contenders for our MVPs of that Pack 4 series. But, yeah, I agree. And saying that too, I do like Shell. I think she's a exciting player as well. So let's not take away from how well she played.
Let's also not forget that she kind of came in, from what I remember, it was actually against New Zealand due to injury. She had been the second string 15 for a while for Canada, and it was against New Zealand due to injury when they won last year, and she's just been building on that form since then. So it's been exciting to see her. You know, this is the thing. Rugby is really hard. Sometimes you get stuck on the bench behind someone else for a long time. But, you know, when you get that opportunity and you take it and you build it into something, that's what you've been able to see from her in the last year. So that's exciting stuff. Okay, that's our Inform 15 of the week, and that's probably our chat for this week. But, I'm going to miss Pacific 4. Like this... Can we have 2 rounds of this too? I want 2 rounds of Opiki and I want 2 rounds of Pacific 4 because this was so much fun. Like, I want to play Canada again.
It was. It was. And to think we don't have another test match until, well, the Aussie game in Wellington, July 12th.
That's right. And we have this match that will be played against the Black Ferns XV. And how they choose to run that will be interesting, and we will put questions across. Everyone's having a week of leave, fair enough, because everyone's been assembled, which is why I couldn't put that question through this week. But we have that question around how will they look? That will be the big question for me, is how are they going to use that game? Because wouldn't we all love to see, like Maya Joseph running against Reese Pody Lane, like putting those head-to-heads that we know are kind of question marks? Wouldn't we love to see some of those run out in that? But is that then a probables versus possibles, which is not the case of what this XV is supposed to be, given that they're taking it on a tour to South Africa? So who knows? Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, gosh, I hope it's just I hope they're given the great amount of preparation time, both teams. Like, give them their time. If it's going to be a possibles, probables, let those teams assemble early and get some good continuity and all of that, so it can be a competitive game. Because they did this in 2022, and you literally had a stacked Black Ferns team who had been playing test matches fresh out of Pack 4 against a group of Black Ferns who hadn't been playing test matches, who were returning from injury and returning from babies even. So it was like those ready playing those in their first game of the year, and it was just a blowout. It wasn't beneficial, I didn't think.
Yeah, you'd want to make it worthwhile. And I just think too, we're just like you and I, Les, who are recording this on Monday because we were both away and so we had to push it back a day, and we said we're our own bosses. I think New Zealand Rugby needs to remember that they are their own bosses when it comes to this match. We don't have many left. So as much as it is like an internal test because it's Black Ferns versus Black Ferns XV, you're your own boss and you can make that be what you need it to be. And so if it comes down to it, they will make that choice. Is it better for them to try and run that squad together? I kind of feel like running 2 more even teams, no disrespect to development, but like 2 more even teams against each other to try and replicate some sort of top tier contest. I feel like that's what we need now, but hey, maybe they'll say that's what camps are for.
Yeah, good point. So hopefully we can get a slip a question in and ask, eh? Maybe
we'll see what comes back. But hey, thank you so much for joining us, team. It's been a pleasure to cover this one for you. And we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, everyone. Ka kite.